Hey guys, so for this video, I'm gonna be doing a movie review of The Cello. I saw it a little bit ago, but I figured still go ahead and make a review of it. Don't think it's come out on DVD yet, at least, but yeah, just overall, real quick, my thoughts. I enjoyed it well enough. Um, probably watch it again. Don't know if it will be one of my favorites, but I enjoyed it while I was watching it, so. But yeah, the plot, it follows this magician. The start of the movie, I I don't know if it's like this 1700s or the 1800s. I do not know what the time period is, but he's kind of finishing writing this piece of music or writing a letter or something like that, and you can get the sense that something terrible has happened. He's like um narrating the thing and then apologizing to his wife and child, which made me think that he, was writing the letter. But yeah, he ends up leaving the house with his cello. He goes to the orchestra, and the maestro starts the song. And as the song slowly progresses, the audience starts becoming more violent, and start eventually killing each other. But the man kind of, I guess you could say, either chickens out or he just, he's not able to actually complete the song, and so the spell on the audience is broken, and of course the maestro is pissed because he's not able to finish the song, and I think he pretty much implies that he's gonna have to pay for that, but we don't really see anything. Um, we don't really see anything happen to him in that scene, at least. But yeah, then we get to the modern day, with the main character. Can't remember his name. He's a celloist. He's struggling to make a name for himself as a magician, and well, eventually the cello that he has been using breaks, and so he starts looking for some new ones, and none of the ones that he's been tries is to his liking, I guess. Until one day he notices in a store a cello that kind of he becomes obsessed with, I guess you could say, and eventually his friends kind of push him to get that cello, which obviously that's a big mistake. But yeah, Jigsaw is the one that sells it to him. Um, and but he kind of warns him to essentially like play it with his entire soul, was the kind of the gist of it, I guess you could say. um and so yeah, we see him, he starts playing the cello, and then throughout the entire movie he becomes obsessed with finishing this song that he's writing. And so people around him start to notice how obsessed he's becoming, and then a lot of people start dying. um, so yeah, finally, after all of his family members are dead and a lot of his friends, the celloist um kind of suspects something's up, and his fiance and another pal who's still alive end up tracking down the original owner before, the owner that had cello before, um this main characters. um so they end up finding the man. um and turns out that he's actually like the nephew of the man who had the cello. The man hung himself, and so the nephew had the cello and kind of knows that it's bad and it kills people. But when I'm assuming Jigsaw came around to and offered to take the cello, he happily gave it up. But of course, it eventually comes back to haunt him. Of course, the man who hung himself, his uncle, he hung it because he knew what the cello that it was kind of evil, and then it was kind of making him obsessed with finishing the song, and it was hurting people, and so he kills himself. But yeah, the celloist gets a cello, and then starts to play it again, and his fiance and his friend proceed to try to kill each other. Um, but the nephew is finally able to stop the celloist before they're able to kill each other. And so the friend, his friend that's still alive, decides that he's gonna destroy the cello. Which I don't know why they didn't do that. Try that first, but anyways. But yeah. So he starts like breaking the cello apart, and as we see, the more he breaks it, the nephew starts. It's essentially affecting the nephew. So every time he breaks something, part of the cello, it like bone breaks in the nephew's body, and it eventually just, he finally breaks like the spine of the cello and breaks like nephew's spine and all of that. Um, so essentially, the nephew still ends up paying the cello, and the cello ends up, taking him. So the celloist eventually meets up with Jigsaw and the maestro from the beginning of the movie, and they give him the lowdown on what's been going on, what is happening, why things are happening the way they are. So the man from the beginning, he was also a struggling magician who was approached by Alfred, the maestro, who promised that he will give the musician kind of a like musical genius. So help him to be I guess a genius when it comes to writing music. Um, and it kind of I guess comes at a price. And so the magician agrees, and to seal the deal, he kills his wife and child, uses their bones to make the cello, and then uses their blood to paint the cello as like the kind of the varnish. So that's its gruesome like creation, I guess. Then Alfred reveals that the celloist, the main character, now has to finish the piece. That essentially the original, the first musician, it was the same piece that he was writing. So he has to complete that piece and play it to completion to save his fiance. And so, guess the celloist agrees. Um, while he's doing that, the fiance goes back to the home of the magician to look for something to help, and she finds a piece of music with a note along with it, and she races to see the celloist because obviously there's something there that she wants him to know. So the celloist, he's playing at an opera house where a lot of people are in attendance, and when he starts playing, people start killing each other again. So this goes on until the fiance and the friend are able to arrive in time to reveal that they have the original song that the magician from the beginning had written before he wrote the evil piece. And so this is kind of, I guess you could say, the the magician's the truest intent, like his, I guess his real passion, I don't know. Anyways, um the magician had left it with a note expressing grief for what he did. So obviously I think that was the note that he was kind of narrating at the beginning. So the cellist starts to play, in which starts the celloist starts to play the original piece from the magician, which stops the spirits that have come out of the cello. I forgot to mention that part. That was, yeah, apparently it's the mother, the wife, the child, and the magician's their souls are like trapped in a cello when you see them come out throughout the movie or trying to come out throughout the movie. But then this when he's playing the song, at the orchestra, that's when it was starting to come. They were coming out to the cello, and I think they're the ones influenced people to kill each other. But yeah, the celloist starts to play the song that the first magician originally had created, and it stops the magician, the spirit of the magician, and kind of pushes him back into the cello, I guess you could say. And of course, Alfred, the maestro, gets mad and says that, it's not going to save him. But the cello keeps playing. The celloist keeps playing as the building collapses around him. So obviously he knew that he was going to have to pay anyways. But then, and then the rest of essentially it's like I wouldn't say credit scenes, but just the end of the movie, we start getting like news reports of what happened, and the opera house collapse, and kind of starting to get information about this cello that supposedly kills people. People are killing each other. And then at the very end, the last scene is Alfred kind of walking out of a building, walking down the street. So obviously, probably gonna go do some more bad, but I could never tell if he was supposed to be like the devil or something like that, or just, I don't know, a demon, some supernatural like being that, just torments people with cellos. I don't know. Or instruments, because, when he's kind of giving the celloist lowdown during the movie, he about like the history of the cello. He's also there's also other instruments as well. I think there was one from Chaplin, whoever, that magician. Um, I think it implies that, a lot of these magicians kind of gave their soul, or at least put all their soul into their music. Maybe that's why he wasn't, the celloist in this movie, why he ends up dying, because he didn't really put his entire soul into the music. I don't know. But it's interesting to think about. The visuals, it was a visually beautiful movie. It was gorgeous. With the scenes where solos in a cello, when they're trying to come out, it's very like smoky, and we kind of could see the like distorted, um it's like the wood on the cello is like pushing out, and more just it looked, I'll just say it looked very beautiful. You'll understand if you see the scene. But and then of course we get these like distorted scenes where he's playing, while he's playing the music, as they're like traveling down the hallway. We kind of follow the music, and it sometimes it comes from like the ceiling, and then we're kind of like traveling, on like from the ceiling point of view down the hallways to the different rooms, and seeing how it affects people. It was a very interesting movie. It was shot very interesting. So something definitely very memorable. Um, Characters. We did get to see the main characters descent into madness, which I felt was, you know, kind of added some suspense in the movie. It also kind of made me think that this is what the first magician, kind of what he experienced, because we don't really see much from the first magician, but just from what this celloist experienced, it's probably what he also experienced. He was probably also driven mad by this song. But yeah. Jigsaw and Alfred were creepy, I'll admit. There are, I'd love to know more about their motives. I'm not sure, like I said, if they're like the devil, or just, malevolent spirits, you know, forcing magicians to make music to kill people. I don't know. It'd been interesting to learn a little bit more about them. Interesting enough, it's actually based on a book by an author. So uh I I was not able to actually find an English version of the story. It's based on a book by the same title, the Cello. And but the book is in Arabic, and so obviously I don't speak it, but I have not been able to find an English version of it, which is disappointing because I would been interested in kind of checking out, see if maybe they go a little bit more into, the whys of the story, but um uh but yeah, just the movie itself, I was interested in the story of the cello, specifically kind of the backstory. I wanted to know more about its history, and can it actually be destroyed, and is the celloist from, this movie, is his soul now trapped in the cello as well? So turns out that the director was Darren Lynn Bosman, who directed Saw 2, 3, 4, and Spiral, the Book of Saul. So, yeah. I mean, some of the shots definitely felt very much like a Saw movie, like when the nephew was being killed. That definitely felt like, um, once you know that the director who did Saul did that, it becomes more like, it becomes very obvious, I guess. The screenplay was written by the author of the book, so he did the book and the screenplay for this movie as well. And then the cinematography was done by Maxim Alexandra. He did the cinematography for The Hills Have Eyes, High Tension, Silent Hill Revolution 3D, The Nun, Shazam, and Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. So, a lot of different ones. He also did a few episodes of Hunting of Bly Manor, which, quite a resume there. A lot of horror, obviously. And then the composer is Joseph Bissara. He did the music for the Insidious movies, a lot of the movies in the Conjuring universe, the Trent's soundtrack, the um, the Trench track from the Aquaman soundtrack. He did that, and as well as Malignant, which, yeah, I did not know that. And then of course didn't know any of the actors because most of them were, I think, like Arabic, which was not a surprise to me. But was surprised to see Tobin Bell, um, in it. So Tobin Bell, aka Jigsaw, and then of course Jeremy Irons. I remember him best as Alfred. But yeah, they played the two main villains. And knowing that the director did a few of the Saw movies, it actually makes sense Tobin Bell is here. But yeah, so that was pretty much the entire movie. So definitely watch it. If you like horror, because there's so many horror aspects that I enjoyed. Um, I probably will rewatch it again just to see if I missed anything, because I do think it's overall a very beautiful and intriguing movie. So yeah, so I'll just wrap it up. That was my review of the cello. So if you did like this video, give it a like, subscribe to get notification for all the videos I'll be doing. You guys have a nice night. Stay safe out there. Talk to you later. Bye.